This evening, we are going to be looking at burning issues touching on our national life, especially with the call for an Anglophone to become the next president of Cameroon. This evening, we are having as guest on Prime the barrister Agbor Nkongho Felix, who is the president of the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa. He's a former president of the FACO Lawyers Association, Pioneer Consortium leader, also vice president of the African Bar Association for Central Africa. He also, it should be noted that he served for 15 years with the United Nations Organization in countries like Afghanistan, Sierra Leone, amongst others. And he is also a multiple award winner, just coming back from the United States of America, where he got internationally recognized once again. Barrister is in the studio with us, Barrister Felix Nkongho Agbor. We are glad to have you on Prime. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. It's nice to be back where I consider home. I know it's been close to 1.5 years that I've not been here, so I'm happy to be here. And I'm ready for the discussions tonight.
Okay. We are also very happy to have you with us this evening, and hopefully we're going to have a great time together for you and our audience watching out there. We are starting with this question. Social and mainstream media for these past days are yet to stop discussing a call that you made recently for an Anglophone to be the next president of Cameroon, and many are asking why now.
Well, as it's said in the Bible, there's a time for everything. A time to plant, a time to sow, and a time to reap. You know, so the time is now. I mean, the time is ripe. We close to more than 60 years. We've had two French presidents, Mr. Hijo and Mr. Balla. And we think, and I believe, that is the time to have an Anglophone as president of the country. You understand what is going on through the country. Cameroon is going through a lot of issues, especially the conflict in the southwest and the northwest regions. And I believe that it's high time also. The whole notion about living together, the whole philosophy about unity and diversity, that these two peoples that came together to create this country, they should also have the right, you know, they should have the right to aspire to the highest positions of the land. And there's also, when we talk about perception is also very important, just like reality nowadays. And I believe that after having two Francophone presidents, this is the time, you know, to have an Anglophone who can reconcile the country, who can bring the country together, who can give hope to Cameroonians in its entirety, particularly to Anglophones who feel that they are being marginalized, they are being suppressed, they are being oppressed by a dominant Francophone regime. So it is, in my estimation, the moment, the right time for Anglophones to rally, and for Francophones also to accept and support the fact that it is a time to have an Anglophone as president of this country.
Now, you have raised the issue of reconciling the nation, especially with regards to what is happening in the conflict-stricken regions of the southwest and northwest region. Is an Anglophone president necessarily going to stop or fix the Anglophone crisis?
You see, Leo, I look at things from a very holistic perspective. No one size would fit all, you know. We've been in conflict since 2016. And it's not a panacea that if you have an Anglophone president, all the problems will be solved. But also, it's part of solving the problems. And it's part of also showing, because we are aggrieved. We feel we are marginalized. And how do you win the minds and hearts of the Anglophones if you don't allow them, if you don't support the quest for an Anglophone to be president? There are other things that must happen also, okay? Nobody thinks that this one would solve all the problems. There's a need for institutional reforms, for example. The constitution must be reformed. That would include the form of a state, you know. The form of a state will be addressed, The issue of about rotational presidency would also be addressed. How do you devolve power to the regions, you know? How do you ensure that in this unity and diversity, you accept the specificity, the cultural specificity, the fact that we are different, the fact that we Anglophones, we are peoples, as the African Commission of Human and People's Rights said in 2009, in the case of Ngume and Scapo versus the state of Cameroon. You have to put all these things together. So it's not like the president would be like a kind of Deus ex machina, God coming from like a machine to solve all the problems. But it is one of the measures that you use to win the minds and hearts of the people, for them to understand that we belong and we can collectively, in our diversity, work towards the greater goal of reconciling each and every one, the sons and daughters of this country, the Anglophones, the Francophones, those from the south, the north, and west and east, come together to build a strong society based on mutual respect, on fairness, on justice and equity, and to ensure that the natural wealth of this country, it's distributed to each and every one and to all the crannies of the country.
Now, how should this operation go? Should the nation or the government just declare that henceforth an Anglophone is going to become president, or a consensus should be arrived at the political, the different political platforms levels to ensure that endorsements are done in favor of Anglophones?
Oh, you see, Mr. Leo, I don't have a magic wand. Mm-hmm. I don't have the monopoly of knowledge. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's an idea that I've mooted, mm-hmm. and I'm happy that it is taking over the public space. Mm-hmm. People will refine it. They will come with better ideas than what I raise. Mm-hmm. But what I think, in personally, is the fact that, you know, we need to agree on the fact. That's why the constitution would have to be amended. Mm-hmm. It would either go through a referendum or through the parliamentarians to amend the constitution in such a way that there is a rotational presidency between the two peoples. And I'm clear, because I've followed debates. You know, there were times that they equated the Anglophones, the problems of the Anglophones, to the Pygmies in the East. I'm looking at the two peoples that came together. Mm-hmm. And in a better term to use, the people of Southern Cameroon or West Cameroon. Mm-hmm. That's a politically correct term to use. Mm-hmm. The people of Southern Cameroon or West Cameroon who came together, you know, and joined La République or East Cameroon to form La République du Cameroon. Mm. So this presidency would be rotating amongst them. So when one is vice president, the other one is president. So there needs to be, and if there's a constitutional amendment, it means that each and every party running for the office of the presidency mm-hmm. would have to respect the constitution. Mm-hmm. So if this is the term of the Anglophone, then the parties, one of the criteria for you to run, you need to have an Anglophone candidate. The case of Nigeria is a little bit different because it's more of a convention. A convention is not constitutionalized, mm-hmm. but it's a way of that people have done things over time that it has morphed into, like what we say customary international law, for example. Mm-hmm. So in Nigeria, they do the zoning, you know, between the four zones of the nation. But I believe that we can go beyond. We have a kind of convention at times that when the president is first the Francophone, the next should be an Anglophone, but it's not been respected. I think we are number 5 now. We need these constitutional provisions. We need it to be enshrined in the constitution. And it's a challenge also to our brothers and sisters who are Francophones, who believe also in the unity of this country. It should not just be cosmetic. They should walk the talk to show us that they believe in the fact that we are one people, and they must support the idea that we go through a constitutional reform to ensure that it is enshrined in the constitution that the presidency would be rotating between the Francophones and the Anglophones.
Now, do you have the feeling that Anglophones are yearning for this? It has not been expressed. I follow some politicians yesterday who said you have mustered the courage to finally air out what has been eating deep in Anglophones. Are you surprised that some of the elderly Anglophone politicians and civil society activists have not come out like you have done to tell the world that it is time for an Anglophone president?
You see, Leo, I don't want us to get into this boxing people, they against us. The people who, somebody who thought about it is a visionary. I don't think it's something for personal aggrandizement. I just think that, you know, God brought us into this world to do different things. And probably God just used me to be that voice of the voiceless, that voice who could just get up and like say what a lot of people have been thinking. When I follow the debate, I'm proud, I'm happy, because I was just a messenger You know, I will not take credit for anything. I was just a messenger to give a message. And the way our people have received it, it's overwhelmingly, you know. It comes a point in time in the history of a people that the people have to stand up. The people have to rise against oppression, against marginalization. Just like what we did with the Cameroon Anglophone Civil Society Consortium. Just like what our forefathers did with the All Anglophone Conference. You know, just like what those Arzong Waran called during the GC board. So each generation, each time frame has its own leaders that God has given them, you know, the power to be able to do what they can do at that particular time. And that is how change comes. It is arithmetic kind of progression. So there is no particular leader who would think that I am the kind of the supreme leader in North Korea. You know, I know everything. But I mean, for example, I would not say because I said this, I'm important than the Elats and the Muzus and the Anyangwes and the Ngwanes. No, they did what they had to do. They did their time. We came also the time of the consortium. We did what we're doing. Today, I'm saying what I'm saying. There are others who would come after me. That will come after us. That might take it further. You know, I'm a messenger. There are people who might fine-tune the idea. They might be able to mobilize people more than what I'm doing, and then try to see how we can realize the objective.
When you look at the Anglophone community today, greatly divided along regional, ethnic, political, among other lines, how do you work to strike a consensus to bring them together for an endorsement of an Anglophone candidate that will also receive a further endorsement from the Francophone regions?
You see, look, we have always been democratic in nature, the Anglophones. We have always, we are not textbook kind of people. We are not people where we follow straight-jacketed way of thinking. We are not stereotypical, not flat characters. We are people who are versatile. We disagree to agree at times. And I believe that whenever our interest has been at stake, we've always united to fight the common enemy. And you can see from the GC board, you can see from when we were in the university, we marched, we protested for the creation of the University of Boya. You can see with the Anglophone Cameroon Civil Society Consortium. You can see with the current struggle against marginalization. So yes, we have political parties, we have other shapes of opinion. The regime also has played its part in fragmentalizing and dividing the Anglophones. But I believe that the Anglophones know that when their interest is at stake for the common good, we would work towards our common interest. It would not be easy. It would be very Herculean. But I think, and I challenge the Anglophone civil society leaders, the political leaders, the journalists, and the religious leaders, traditional leaders, to start thinking of building bridges, to start trying to build synergy across the board, to talk to others. You might not like or appreciate what everyone, but for the common good of our people, we need to rise above our partisan, above our tribal, above religion, above our petty differences for the common good. I believe that if we work together, I have been in the forefront of bringing our people together. And I saw in 2016 and early 2017 how when they have leadership that rises above regional, tribal sentiments and political, we can put the authoritarian regime into task. We can put them under pressure. And I think when I follow social media, when I talk to other leaders, I think everybody is ready. And the time is now. We must take advantage of the moment.
The time is now. How do you choose this leader who should be the president of the republic? Do you lobby within political parties? Do you form an Anglophone caucus across political lines? Or how do we get that?
The first thing is to have a consortium of Anglophone leaders, opinion leaders, politicians, tribal, traditional leaders, religious leaders, and the media and everyone, you know, civil society, come together and start talking. It's only in talking, in working together, that we will come up with some blueprints on how to work. You know, yes, the first thing is that for us to have a presidential candidate or a president, we need to have a political party. There are lots of political parties manned by Anglophones. But I believe that if we use the force of argument, if we are able to convince our Francophone brothers, they can still have Francophone parties that will endorse an Anglophone candidate. This is not the first time. It happened during the days of the Union of Change when Chairman John Frundi led the opposition candidates, you know. So it is important that we first of all put our house in order. You know, we cannot be talking about an Anglophone candidate when we are very divided, you know, when we try to attack and insult each other. I think that we must put our, it's not easy, Mr. Liu, to be honest also, it's not easy to bring everybody together, but at least we can have majority of the people together. And the beginning would be hard, you know, everybody likes a success story. There are Thomases. I've read people who don't believe in that will happen. They've given an example of election rigging, but it was by doing and daring that Rome was built, and not by some docile policies cowards who call caution. So we have to come out from our comfort zone and face the reality. Everybody's criticizing the status quo. Everybody says it's bad, but you cannot fold your hands and expect manna to come from heaven. The days of Moses in the burning bush has passed. It is us. It is our time. It is our generation. It is for us individually and collectively to ensure that we walk the talk, to ensure that we leave a legacy for posterity. Okay. And to do that, we need to leave our comfort zone.
Now, there is this confusing issue where we have Francophones themselves. Yesterday, a minister is said to have made a post saying that the children speak English, they go to English schools, so they are Anglophones. Are we not confused here? You say you want an Anglophone to be...
You see, Mr. Liu, I will borrow a word from one of my mentors, Batebisong. He will say that's the apogee of dishonesty.
Okay.
You know, because the said minister, who is a man of law, I have a lot of respect for him, he's educated on, he understands the reality. So we're talking about the geographical entity called Southern Cameroon or West Cameroon. That's why when you are applying, for those who have written concours, they ask your region of origin. Okay? It's the Southwest, it's the Northwest, it's the Littoral, it's the West. It is clear. Okay, when I talk about an Anglophone, I am not talking about phone with regards to just language. It is very holistic, you know, as those who are from the Southwest and the Northwest regions of Cameroon. They are the ones that constitute the Anglophones in my own definition of what I am saying. And these are the people, the former West Cameroonians, the former Southern Cameroonians who came together. Okay, but I am not, and let's not get, this is not xenophobic, because what I am saying is that the Francophones, you know, would have, like his children, they would have the opportunity also to vie to be president. When is the time of a Francophone? When we were coming together, it was the two peoples that came together. There's a lot of intellectual dishonesty and political dishonesty in this debate. But like somebody said on social media, everybody, you know, all the Francophones know who is a Francophone. But it's when it concerns Anglophone that they are debating on whether it's an Anglophone. I don't know whether it's in your passport or in your ID, but it's one of the documents that you fill. They ask you region of origin. And as we speak, in the way lawyers will put it, for the time being, Anglophones are those from the Southwest and the Northwest regions.
Okay. Good evening to you, Hukum, Tony Gunza Wilson, Ndiwum Emmanuel, and to you, Song Derek Kwa, Claudine Ike, Tango Godwin, Bwinda Vincent, Banaki Luis Abon, Winnet Samagwan Messia, Silvanus Ngemaseng, New Zefen Reni, Lucas Ofe, Bentena, Obase Kinge, Deep Tambe Ebot, Gibeto Solo, always watching, and to you, Redis Ngum, Miki Fomukong, and Jim Tex Kudi, Me Ernest Ibui Sebe, good evening to you, Chambe, Silvanus, and Abong Winnet, Prof, good evening to you, John Paul, Binkida, and Chesi Radis Ngu, okay, Tako Juliet Agbor, and to you, Wa Okole Agito Pounds, Lucy Nkongho, and to you, Dr. Lucy, glad to know that you are watching us from the United States, Louis Pop, and all of you, Alon Martin, good evening to all of you watching us on our Facebook page this evening. Barrister, we're talking about a president from Anglophone Cameroon. Would you take up the job if you were solicited to do so?
Leo, the first thing is that man is a political animal, and everybody does politics, whether it's partisan politics or not. The whole idea of an Anglophone candidate, and I want to put it clear, it's not about me.
Okay.
It's about the Anglophones. It's about them deciding on who they believe is the best leader. There are lots of Anglophone men and women who are competent, even more competent than those who have ruled this country, to be president of this country. I don't want this thing to be personalized. You know, it's about us. It's about the people. You know, and if the people decide that this is their candidate, then it's a different ballgame. But for the time being, and the problem for us in this country is that we always fixated on the individual rather than the idea. I want us, it's an idea that we are mooting. I want us to build from that idea. When you start putting persons in picture, then you start having the powerful tussle. I am supposed to be the one, it's not supposed to be the one. So it's an idea. Let us not start with the end of who is the person. Let us walk, okay? And equally also, Leo, there's something I wanted to say in this debate of an Anglophone also, is the fact that, you know, when it's enshrined in the Constitution, somebody would say it's discriminatory. I read somebody on Twitter said it's democracy. In the U.S. Constitution, if I'm not mistaken, Leo, for you to be president of America, you have to be born in American territory. I don't know, people also, if an American is born in Cameroon, that American cannot vie to be president. I don't know whether that's discriminatory also. So it is also okay if it's enshrined in the Constitution that for you to be a president, if you are for an Anglophone, your parents should come from the Southwest and the Northwest. I don't see that also as discriminatory. I just wanted to clear. But with regards to the individual, I want us to look at the idea.
Now, you want an Anglophone president for Cameroon. Should that be limited to politicians or those who have capacity to rule this nation, who are necessarily not into politicking today?
No, you cannot reduce the Anglophone an Anglophone to just politicians. How many politicians do we have? Some of them don't really have any credibility also. I think that it should be, that's why I said a consortium of frontline leaders, civil society, politicians, religious leaders, traditional leaders, you know, journalists, whoever. We've seen in countries where you have a charismatic a man of God who can still be, you understand, some civil society, some politician. I want the playground to be level for everyone who has potential, and everyone that the people or the Anglophones would recognize, would accept, has legitimacy that this is the person to lead us. And then now they can rally under the banner of a political party because they need to get a political party. But I don't think it should be a condition sine qua non that it must be a politician. After all, who is a politician?
Are you by this inviting other observers who have capacity to rule this nation, who now are not into politics, to get interested into politicking? For sure, because if you don't do politics, politics will do you. And I encourage and I urge Anglophones, be they in civil society or whatever they are doing, to start getting an interest in politics. When all of us shun politics, we say politics is for the bad guys. These bad guys will determine, they'll make policies that would affect the lives of the good guys, you know. And there is no bad guys on the one side and good guys, you know. The world is, there are gray areas. The world is made up of the bad guys and the good guys. For me, it's collectively, we need to, and that is why I still urge Anglophones to rise up together, to come together in what format of consortium, to start thinking. Politicians and civil society, religious, traditional, they have to start working together. They have to start building. We need to get this momentum. We need to change the narrative of this country. Okay. We need to change the narrative of this nation. Kings D. Jesus, good evening to you. Fungwe Peter Enga. To you, Prof. Nga Oliver Kum, good evening to you. Asu Paul Obase Kinge, good evening to all of you. And to you, Nkai Abadayan, I say good evening to you. I love your comments and thank you for it. Now, are you saying that you are getting into active politics?
Well, for the time being, I'm a civil society actor.
You say it is time for an Anglophone president.
Yes.
Can there be an Anglophone president without you engaging in politics?
Well, I am not saying that I'm the Anglophone candidate for the president.
You want everybody?
Yes, I want everybody,
including yourself.
Yes. So when you look at the Union for Change in the 90s, you had the people of Cap Liberté. You had the Njekam Chameni. You had the Alex Taku who were civil society, and you had the politicians, you had the trade unionists. That's what I'm saying. Everybody has to come together. When you look at the Union Sacrée in the DRC, you know, the religious leaders were there. So to me, when you reduce everything to politics, you know, that is just politician, that everybody must leave what they are doing to get in, to be a politician. That's where I don't agree. But when they come together and they agree that it's this traditional leader, it's this civil society actor, then you'll be embedded in the whole political party thing and you will lead the movement.
Okay. Brian Ejome, good evening to you at Tabong. Elvis Fobin Shung. We Nan Yunwi Ngwamonde, good evening to all of you. Now, a little bit, we are going to be coming back to this, but some persons are thinking that you betrayed the cause. Barrister, did you actually betray any cause, or you were misunderstood by men?
The first thing I don't understand, which cause are you talking about?
You were the leader of a consortium that led a cause.
Yes. I was the leader of the Cameroon Anglophone Civil Society Consortium.
Yes.
And if you read about the consortium, it was a pro-federalist movement, where we felt that the things we had complained in the educational and the legal system and everything could be solved through a federation. That was the mantra that the consortium stood for. And I challenge all my friends and brothers in the consortium to prove a contrary. We talked about a two-state federation. You know, you could see the placards, you could see the banners. I led the marches in Boya, in Boyoka. I was part of the team in Bamenda. That is it. When we were arrested because of the high-handedness of the authoritarian regime, the post was shifted by, don't forget, my signature was frauded, first of all. I'm sure this is the first time I'm telling you, I'm saying this. My signature was frauded by people to hand over the consortium to others. I don't want to call names, okay? But my signature was frauded, and they acknowledged the fact.
So you did not do it?
I didn't do it. I saw it with Fontem when we were under interrogation at the set. But you know, at times also, after close to 5 years, it's good to tell people what really went wrong. So whilst we were there, the post was shifted. You know, people took over the movement, different ideologies decided to go in for a separation. And that is their fundamental right. Because I've always said that there's a right to internal or an external self-determination. I would religiously defend your right to an external self-determination. But don't, in doing that, don't try to paint the people who were for internal self-determination as if they were bad people. The cause was betrayed by the people who shifted the post. They betrayed us, but we have never complained. I, for one, I was betrayed. I followed events from jail, you know, but the name calling, the stigmatization, we don't need it, okay? We have differences, but I think that as people of the Southern Cameroon or West Cameroon, we need to rise above our differences. And this terminology of a traitor, of an enabler, it's only divisive. It plays in the hands of the oppressors. Strangely enough, chief apostles of the whole notion of separation or restoration, they are the ones using a language that strengthens and emboldens the oppressor. So I still don't understand what kind of liberation movement they are leading when you are stigmatizing others, when you are trying to divide the people more. I believe that leadership should lead. Leadership owes a duty to bring the people together. I'll tell you, we had lots of differences. It was never, ever on social media. I would call Tasang would call me, I would call Fontem, we would argue, but it never went into the public space. I challenge anybody to show me one example that we showed our disagreement in. We did not. But these so-called born-again leaders who came a few days ago, I mean, they've used social media to insult each other, to attack each other. Everyone is now just showing the strongman syndrome. You know, it's me or nobody. And then people are playing to populist social media for certain things that they know when you have a private conversation with them, it flies in the face of logic of what they say in public. But because they want ratings, they want likes, and they're trying to incite violence against rational people who have been consistently consistent, it's embarrassing. Mr. Leo, I'll be honest with you. some of us did not get into this struggle in 2016.
Okay.
And that's what some people think. You know, in 1998, 98 till 2008, 2018, like 24 years ago, I wrote a thesis on self-determination in international law, the case of Southern Cameroon. That's where my mind was 24 years ago. I used to, with Cho Ayaba and Co, Larry Ayamba, and some of those who were still in Europe, we used to demonstrate in front of the Cameroonian embassy in Brussels. We used to go to the EU Commission and EU Parliament to talk. And in one of my speeches that I found it on YouTube, I don't know who recorded it, 24 years ago, I was still reiterating the same things that I am reiterating it today. So I still don't understand how I would have betrayed a cause when I have stood my principles. And I would stand on the principles that unity in diversity, a federation would be the panacea to solve the problems in this country. And no amount of bullying, no amount of name calling, no amount of trying to distract me would make me shift from a position that I believe would solve the problems that we are facing as a people.
Now, when you were the leader of the consortium at the time, you left prison, you felt betrayed, you say you were betrayed. But when you look at what we today are living in the southwest and northwest regions, are you worried about the plight of the people? Are you optimistic that things are going well, or there's a lot of regret?
I'm an eternal optimist. Means that I always see, I look at a very bad situation and I think in my head how we can make it good. Am I happy with what's going on? No. Because this revolution was to prosecute a liberation for our people. You know, it was to fight against marginalization. But today, it's persecuting our people. You know, as Fanon would say, pedagogy of the oppressed. We have now become the oppressed. We are now become the ones who are oppressing our people. We have now becoming the ones who our people are scared of. You know, this is not what is supposed to happen. And until we go back to the drawing board, until we acknowledge the fact that the West Cameroon or Southern Cameroons is made up of about 6 million persons, and they will not think like one. They would disagree, that you have different shades of opinion, but leadership has to rally and bring these people together. Leadership cannot be my way or the highway, because what we're having in the struggle now is my way or the highway. If you are not on my way, I would hit you like a tsunami. I would hit you like a tornado. If you disagree with me, you're a black leg, you've been bought over, I would send people to burn your house. How can, I mean, I don't understand how today our people are calling for the killing of our brothers and sisters. Our people are calling for the burning down the houses of others. You know, how do you justify the chopping of arms and limbs of your fellow brothers? The short sleeve and long sleeve thing that the Belgians did in the Congo, and that the RUF, Revolutionary United Front, and Armed Forces Ruling Council did in Sierra Leone. We practice it on our people. How can I be happy? How can any right-thinking person accept, understand that we have gone to the level of an animal, in the words of Fela, a zombie? What happened that we have been zombinized where we are eating our own? We need to go back to the drawing board. We understand that there's a problem, a fundamental problem of marginalization, a non-respect of the Fumban Accord, or maybe we call it the Fumban Bazaar, you know, but that is no justification for us to turn against our people while the oppressor is laughing. There is a need for an all Anglophone conference, where sons and daughters of both regions have to sit eyeball to eyeball. Look at where we've gone wrong, how we can build, how we can move forward. You know, each passing day I read on social media, I see a yawning gap between the Southwest and the Northwest region. It could be real or imaginary, but I see how the crisis is dividing us as a people. I imagine in 2016 and early 2017 how we were united, how we stood as one person to rise against oppression, how the ghost towns were respected, without us intimidating the people, without threatening to burn people's houses. But today, you would burn somebody's house for not respecting your call. It means you've lost legitimacy in the eyes of the people. But I believe that if we go back to the drawing board, if we have an all-Anglophone conference where we can address these things, we might, you know, go back, and then from there we would forge ahead stronger, more united.
Now, schools have not been ongoing in most parts of the Northwest and Southwest regions. It is true that the consortium actually called for the school boycott at the beginning of the crisis. What actually does it serve today, school boycott?
Leo, you know, I'll be honest to say I have a sense of guilt when I look at this school boycott. I've seen on social media, I know I'm on platforms where people really attack me, and I respect their right to attack me, you know, on the fact that they showed the speech that myself and Tasang made at Mondial Hotel in Bamenda, when we talked about the school boycott. But it was a short term, you know. It was just to raise attention to the national and international community of our plight. We did not plan it to be long term. And that's where I disagree with the people today that they have institutionalized school boycott. You cannot have a state where for 5 to 6 years your kids don't go to school and you justify it. Nobody in the international community can understand why our kids are not going back to school, and then we are happy. And as a result of the fact, everybody in Anglophone Cameroon matters, his or her kids are going to school, not so. So the kids who need this education the more, whose parents, who might have been first generation kids to go to school, whose parents did not go to school, they will not have education. So it would perpetuate the vicious cycle of a poverty leading to another poverty, leading to another poverty. And my worry is that as our kids move to East Cameroon, they become more Francophonized. So what the regime has failed to do in Francophonizing the Anglophones, we are doing it by our kids moving. When you go to Suza, when you go to Konsamba, when you go to Yaoundé and Douala, you go to Beta, these kids who are moved there, you know, they lose some of our cultures and our values, our customs and practice. They end up becoming more Cameroonians than more Anglophones. So we have also to rethink. And look at the educational system in Cameroon. It was our biggest industry. You understand? The Sacred Heart, the Balis, the Sase, the Sekas. It was the pride of a people where we were using our education to Anglophonize Francophones. You know, lots of them in my days in Sase. When they come to BHS, it's secret. And when they are arguing, they talk about we Anglophones. They imbibe the culture and they started thinking and reasoning like us. Now is the reverse. So is the trend moving towards them? So I don't understand why. I don't fathom how a leader who calls himself a leader, who is a people-centric leader, who has the interests of the people at heart, whose kids are going to school. Because I challenge all the leaders who are clamoring for boycott to show me. And I spoke to one of the leaders in 2017. And I told the leader that I challenge you to tell your kids living in the US not to go to school. And let me see what will happen. It will resonate well with us back home. But you cannot sit celebrating your kids going to school and the ones in Cameroon have to pay the sacrifice. So let's assume hypothetically that we have a state today. Who are those who are going to work? These kids who have not gone to school, or their kids abroad who will come and lord it over here. From a moral perspective, it is wrong. The education opens the doors to poverty. And most of these leaders had the education, most of them had the education in this country. You might complain about the quality, but let them have some little education.
Okay, let them have some education. Barrister, you say you were betrayed and you're not too happy with the situation in which the people find themselves in the Southwest and Northwest regions. Are you engaging in talks? Many persons have written for me to ask you why you were released, why others are there, others are still in prison. What are you doing to get them released? And then are you engaging these frontline leaders that you're talking about now to also make them understand things from your perspective?
You see, I felt betrayed, but I don't feel bitter.
Okay.
Because by my nature, I'm not a bitter person. I think that in the course of a political process, all of us will make mistakes. I've made my own mistakes also, you understand? And I think that everyone has made mistakes. It's for us to acknowledge our mistakes and then we move forward. You know, in terms of, I've read a lot of conspiracy theory about, but for those who know they understand how this country functions, you understand? Nothing happened. Nobody knew. My lawyer, Ben Muna, late Ben Muna, blessed memory, wonderful person who sacrificed a lot for me and all those who were in detention. Ni Ben was in the prison in the morning because we were supposed to go to court the next day. Chris Fomunyo was coming to visit me. Okay? We did not know. I was having a discussion with they had called me that Chris was coming. So I went to where we received guests. And by the time I was coming back in the cell, they had announced it, and people were jumping from them like Prezi. I didn't. Nobody knew what was happening. So, and it wasn't me. Aya Paul was released. I think at that time also the heat was there. You understand? And don't forget, we have to be honest also. If you look at the pedigree that some of us had, you understand? If you look at the pressure, I mean, my former colleagues in the UN, my ex-classmates in the US and at the special court and everywhere, the pressure was really, really on iron government, you know. And we really did not do anything wrong. And they know we never incited violence. It was just the strong man exercising his strongness over people he felt they were strong. But he had to show that he was stronger than them. That's what happened. Okay? So there was nothing happened. No arrangement. No mind involved. And I believe that if you follow what I've done since I left jail, and I think somebody in government has even said to me that I've been more radicalized after jail than before jail. The reports that we publish as an organization, nobody in this country has ever published those reports. Even those who insult us, they use our reports for advocacy. There is no organization in this country, no leader of the separatist movement that has documented the gross and systematic violation of the state military officers like my organization has done. Nobody in this country. So you cannot say these people are compromised, that we are using, the reports are being shared to all diplomatic missions. The State Department, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International continuously to cite us in their reports. These are credible bodies. You know, yes, I have been talking to my brothers who are still in jail. And if you talk to some of them, they'll tell you, support them privately, quietly. I do things without my own support. I've been talking to some of our friends abroad. You know, even the ones that don't agree with me, even the ones that want me dead, I still try to talk to them. You know, that's why I attended the CDN meeting in Canada. The last time there was a meeting in the US pro-separatists. I participated through Zoom because I feel that nobody can do it alone. You know, we need to individually and collectively work towards a common good. And I still call on my friends and brothers that we have to work. We have a vested interest. History and nature brought us together. There is no way that we would separate from each other. You know, so we might disagree, but we should disagree without being disagreeable. And to me, this is an olive branch to all my separatists, my friends in the separatist movement, that they should tone down their hatred, their attack, and their incitement of violence against those who they don't agree with.
Even when Ayabacho regrets not killing you before now?
Well, you see, I have an interesting relationship with Ayaba because I disagree with him, he disagrees with me. But I have respect for Ayaba because of his consistency, okay? And that is it. Ayaba has always stood for separation. And I give him credit for that. But where I disagree with Cho is the fact that he seems to be a very bitter person. It should not necessarily be violence. You know, you cannot do a video and calling for the fact that you regret that I wasn't killed or Madame Mundi was. I mean, we all have the same connection to the territory like you. The fact that you believe in restoration and I don't believe doesn't make you more Southern Cameroonian than the other. And I think that's an illusion or a delusion that some people are suffering from. That because you preach separation and somebody doesn't preach, you are more. No, nobody. And I want to repeat it, Mr. Leo. Nobody is more Anglophone than the other. So they should remove that from their mindset because you believe in separation. No. And I tell my friends, I have friends who are separatists, and I always tell them, respect the people. And the people are each and every Anglophone, each and every one. That's why I have people who are in the CPDM, who are unitarians. I respect them because we cannot be building a democracy, you know, and we are preaching authoritarianism. Fela will call it demonstration of grace or crazy demonstration. How do you claim that you want to change the status quo and at the same time you're behaving as the people you are complaining? You're not helping. You're not helping your community. And that is why we are losing ground, because we have lost the moral high ground.
Okay.
We have lost legitimacy in the eyes of the people.
So many persons hoped in the international community. You worked with the United Nations for over 15 years. Some persons think that Cameroon has been betrayed by the international community. They have waited on them for so long, yet they have not come.
The international community is made up of states.
Okay.
Especially the UN. It's a state-centric organization. So it protects the territorial integrity and sovereignty of states. That's the first thing we have to understand. And there are lots of problems in the world. Okay. I worked in Afghanistan. And I'll be honest to tell some of my friends that, the UN, I think in 55 or 56 of the charter, it says when it affects international peace and security, that's when they would have to intervene. You understand? Look at DRC, look at Afghanistan, look at Central African Republic, look at Syria, look at other places in the world. It's no justification for their lethargic attitude, because also they don't have the personnel and they don't have the resources. They depend on the states to provide the resources. But I believe that we need a concerted effort, friends of Cameroon in the international community, and Cameroonians also, because there is no way that we would find a solution without us. We Cameroonians have to be the first to show a willingness that we need this thing to work, a willingness that we need peace, a willingness that we need justice in this country. It's only through that the international community, because if you talk to some leaders in the international diplomats, some of them also are like, but what are you guys doing? That's why I believe that whatever process that has to take place has to be holistic, and not only international community, but from a Western perspective of it, but the international community, meaning that including states in the AU, including some powerful nations in Africa who can also raise their voices with the non-state armed groups also. Because as I say, it takes two parties to tango, two persons to tango. So you cannot do it, without the other party. But if all of us put our people first, if all of us are people-centric in the way we do things, the government, the non-state armed group, the separatists, if we, the civil society, if we look at us as one, that in spite of our diversity, in spite of our differences, we are one people and we work towards the common goal, everybody will be humble enough to come down from his or her high horses to try to find a solution. Are you surprised
that ground seemingly have not shifted since 2016? The government says we have to fight for our territorial integrity, and then the separatists say we want outright separation, yet everybody wants an end to the impasse. How do we get out of it?
Well, for those who know this government, it's one of the most stubborn and arrogant government that has existed in the history of humankind. They have arrogated themselves some knowledge that I don't know who gives them the impression that they are very knowledgeable, and they're very arrogant, and they show complete disdain and disrespect to others who they don't agree with, which is unfortunate, and also on the other side also, the separatists are living in their own bubble that it will be separation or nothing, so both parties would have to, and I repeat, if they are people oriented, because the role of a government, Mr. Leo, is for the protection of civilians and their property. And I think also the role of the liberation group is to protect the civilian population. And if all of them are truly out to protect the civilian population, they would find a solution in a situation where the civilian population bears the brunt of their excesses. As they say in Africa, when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. For the time being, it's the grass, it's the common man, it's the l'homme de rue, the average person who is suffering. So it's high time where both parties make some concessions. And if I were to recommend, I would advise that, okay, there's one party that says separation, and there is another one that believes in its fast called unitary decentralization. How do we get to the middle? So I would propose that, okay, we have a 20-year period of a 10-state federation. Because now you are building confidence. You're trying to win the minds and hearts. We have a 20-year state of a 10-state federation. After that, we go to another 20 or how many years that they will agree for a two-state federation. After that period, they call a referendum whether the people of the then Southern Cameroon they want to stay. So it ends up becoming a win-win situation. Most people talk about the South Sudanese model. South Sudan went to a federation. So I'm surprised when some of my friends in the non-state armed groups that they're quoting South Sudan, but they're not looking at the reality. To me, it would be near impossible to leave one end to the other. Okay, because also there are other people in these groupings in Anglophone Cameroon who don't want separation, and we have to respect them also. Okay, otherwise we end up imposing our will on them. So how do we get through phases? I gave 20 years as an example. They might, that's why there's a need for a constitutional amendment. There's a need for a genuine and all-inclusive dialogue. Where honesty, where both parties are ready to make concession, not a kind of a monologue where one party determines the agenda, the duration, and the venue.
Okay, where one party decides, the international community, you said they are feet dragging because of what is happening out there, but you want an Anglophone to become the president of the republic. The government will tell you that a special status has been granted to the Northwest and Southwest region as a recognition of a people who have specific issues that are very clear to them. You have written of what has happened since the holding of the major national dialogue at the introduction of the special status for the Northwest and Southwest region, the coming into place of the regional assemblies with regional presidents in both the Southwest and Northwest regions.
You see, Leo, what is in a name? Is it a shell? Because the special status, if you look at Corsica, you look at Quebec, it's a wonderful thing. It's not a bad thing. It's devolution of power. It's the name that they give it. But what is in the content? That's the problem. I think a lot of people who were okay with the special status at the initial stage are disappointed because the content is empty. The government has accepted our specificity, but it did not go beyond. You understand? Why don't we show our why don't they show our difference by us electing our own governors, for example? The regional presidents don't have the powers that they have. And if you look at the institutions, it's still manned by the same people of the ruling party that brought us to where we are. So to me, the argument that they have given us a special status, if the content was reflective of what a special status entails, if there was genuine devolution of power, it could, and I'm not saying, and I say it could be used to win the minds and hearts of the people. But as I speak and as I look at it from a third party and a point of an analysis, it's a farce. Okay, there is really nothing special in that particular status. So the argument that we should not have a president because they have given us a special status, why don't we get the person who decides the special status? Why are we only supposed to be at the receiving end? We need also to be on that table to determine the policy of this state. We need also to be there, and I believe that after the constitution has been amended to have whether it's a federation and have a rotational presidency, it would help in building strong institutions in the country. It would help also in ensuring that the bicultural, the bijural, nature of the country is respected. So it's not just about having a president who is an Anglophone, but it also comes with a package. A package that can be used to fight tribalism and ethnicity in all its shapes and forms.
Okay. If you are just saying this, Barrister, what role do you have to play yourself after you are released to fix the misdeeds, the misdeeds of the state, the ground zero fighters and the diaspora of the Anglophone crisis? From my observation, the three parties have misdeeds that must be addressed for peace and dialogue to reign once again.
Well, that's why we need to have these discussions. These debates are important, and that's why, as an organization, the Center for Human Rights and Democracy, we are fighting against the culture of impunity, and we're encouraging accountability. That's why we are documenting these gross, egregious crimes that have been taking place in our regions. So someday history, these voiceless, nameless, and faceless people who have died, they should be recognized. We should acknowledge that atrocities were committed. It could be through a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. There needs to be an atonement. They need to ask for forgiveness, so that we can move forward. Because you cannot just rubbish these things or put them under the carpet as if nothing happened. And all the parties, nobody should pretend, the parties have committed heinous crimes. Both parties to the conflict, the state and the non-state armed groups. I mean, we have documented crimes that we will be launching our yearly report sometime in January. Some of the crimes that we have documented, it is embarrassing to talk about it, coming from the non-state armed groups and the state. So we as civil society organizations, we are there to act like the watchdog, like checks and balances.
Okay.
Just to remind both parties of their obligations.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. I enjoy the program and your efforts. Please, Barrister, what is the way forward for schools to resume in the Northwest and Southwest as the head of the consortium by that time? Mayun Awudu Bangante, writing from Bangante. Okay. Barrister Balla is a good man, but 10 states isn't good. We want 2-state federation. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I wish to ask Barrister Balla, why can't he push forth the idea of a referendum so that the people decide their fate? Neirus is writing from Limbe. Brother Zil Prince Mba from Guzang says, hello, brother. Leo, God Almighty continue to protect and bless you for the timely revelations on the daily basis. Greetings to big bro, Dr. Nkongho. May Yahweh continue to sustain you for being just yourself, truthful to the reality, to the will of God will prevail. Shalom. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please, with your guest, also like to know what happened between Barrister Balla and Ni Frundi, that he has to be appointed into his party. Isn't there something behind this? Okay. So many questions and many persons are waiting for me to ask these questions.
Can I do a rundown?
Yes.
Just short.
Yes.
Okay. For schools to reopen, it's collective. I think the parents, civil society, the state and the non-state armed groups should agree that kids should go back to school. There are excesses also of the military. You understand? Trying to attack some of the schools also is not very necessary. How do we win minds and hearts? They should allow civil society to be able to play the role between the non-state armed groups. I am talking to a group of civil societies. We've been talking to non-state armed groups, a long time ago, for them to understand the need to allow kids to go back to school. Yes, I think my brother talked about the 10-state and the 2-state. I am a 2-state person. Anybody who knows me, I stand for a 2-state federation. But at the same time, I'm very practical and I'm realistic. That's why I said for us to be very holistic and involve everybody. So it should not be like X1, Y. It should be win-win, ganyang, as the French will say. I suggested that there was a time frame we would have a 10-state, we move to a 2-state, and then we move to a referendum. Yes, referendum, I'm pushing for a referendum, but I'm also saying that when you are negotiating, when you are talking, you have to be realistic. When I went to the Canadian Parliament, I raised the issue of a referendum, and I still believe that we'll get there. It might not be today. It might not be tomorrow, but someday we're going to get there. The last question about Nijon Frundi. For those who know me, they know the respect that I have for Frundi. If you come to my living room, what we call parlor, you have a picture of myself and Nijon Frundi, one with Ben Muna and Atia. You have Barack Obama, you have Gandhi, you have Martin Luther King. So he's somebody I hold in very high esteem. We might disagree. Things might not have worked the way we wanted, and I think both parties did not do it the right way. Okay, and it's not like somebody wants to disrespect Frundi. I, for one, Frundi is an icon. I would never disrespect him. Things did not work the way it's supposed to work, and I use this opportunity to say both parties were responsible. A lot of things that did not go right. So there's no blame game. But he's somebody I still hold in high esteem, and I'm planning to visit him to try to find time and have a discussion.
Because I was going to ask you, many persons have been wondering, after what happened, why did you not go and meet the
yes, you see, I came back to the country from the US on a Wednesday. I think that decision came on a Thursday when I was on my way to Yaoundé for our by-elections. I tried through a third party to reach out to Frundi twice. And honestly, rendezvous were given, but because of our elections, we go there, we're like 4 days, we did not sleep. Okay, so but I felt that time was of essence also. So I didn't meet him, and that's why I issued a statement through the public media that they also use it to issue my. But notwithstanding that, I acknowledge the fact that also as a younger person, I would have made more effort. Okay, Frundi is for all those of us who are activists today in this country. I think it's thanks to John Frundi that we are where we are today. It's because what Frundi did in the 90s, you know, is bigger than what we did in 2016. And if you did not have a Frundi, you would not have had the Agbor Ballas and the Tassangs and the Ayuk Tabes and all the others, and the Kamtos and everybody. So I think, as we say in Pidgin, Frundi, you are placed there, okay? People might have made errors. I think, and I said both parties did not handle this thing rightly. But to me, it's how do we move ahead? How do we bury our differences towards the common good? How do we agree that, you know, we did not handle this thing rightly, both the SDF and myself, and move on? To me, that is it. A lot of people want to see you throw dead on the SDF, but that's not my role, because I still have respect. I have lots of friends in the SDF, and I still have respect for the SDF. I think if you ask me, my icons in this country, Frundi would be will be one of the toppest person who is my icon in this country. I will not deliberately disrespect an icon.
Okay, you would not deliberately do that. But now that you are calling for an Anglophone to become the next president of Cameroon, how do you intend and others to engage in a lobbying that would see your dream come true?
Well, it's that's why I said it's individually and collectively. So you as an Anglophone, you have to be talking to potential people. You interview lots of people every day. Have you spoken to this person? Have you called this person? Why can't you people meet? That's what we do. That's what people have been doing. I've been meeting some people. I've been talking to them in small fireside meetings and discussions on how we go about it. As I said, nobody has the magic wand. Nobody has the crystal ball. It would be a collective effort. And collective effort means that we will talk to people that we don't like. We will talk to people that we don't agree with, because it's for the common good. You cannot only talk to the people who like you, the people who make your ego bloated. You know, you have to talk to people who are from other shades of political opinion, who you might have fallen out with them, you might have had issues with them. But if it's for the common good, you need to rise above your personal differences and put the interests of the people first.
Okay. Now, were you in Yaoundé when the French president came around? Were you very satisfied with the responses given by the president of the Republic, especially to the French journalists? And did you meet with Macron? What did you guys discuss?
Well, I happened to have been invited by the French ambassador to attend the civil society meeting with President Emmanuel Macron at the Noir village. It was a very exciting discussion. There were three themes. There was democracy, there was climate change, and I think there was culture. You know, and most of my interest was a lot about democracy and about how he said the French don't have any lessons to teach us, but that there was a need to have new leaders, different kind of leaders in Cameroon. And he made mention of the fact that if he was in Cameroon, he would not have acceded to power the way it is. I mean, my take was the relaxed manner in which Macron demystified the position of a president.
Okay.
He brought it closer to the people. The way he interacted, he spoke on his feet, not wearing a suit. You know, he took pictures with people. He was frank. He had open discussions. His delegation included Cameroonians who were pariahs, somebody like Ashim Bembe. This is someone who the state had not accepted him to come to this country for a long time. I think most of the other discussions, the things that I would have liked to hear from Macron was normally bilateral when he was having a meeting with the president. Perhaps our expectations was very high. A lot of people got disappointed, but to me, I believe that he would have had a proper conversation with Mr. Biya behind the cameras, and we hope that in the days ahead we might see some of the fallout. He talked about decentralization also, and with regards to our situation, his own definition of decentralization might not be the definition of what Mr. Biya is doing, and probably perhaps know what the Anglophones are talking about. But you know, if you look at decentralization, that says what is a name. Federalism is a form of decentralization. You're decentralizing power, you're devolving power. It's just that the way it's applied in this country, that's where we have a problem. You know, so if it could be applied, look at the United Kingdom, for example. Look at the United States or France, for example. France is a decentralized state, but the regions, you know, they have their they control, they manage of their region. So it makes it easier if we can have the same thing in Cameroon. You know, it would be a phase, you know, we go from one stage to the other, but there needs to be the willingness also, the political will of those in power to be able to ensure that these things are put in place. But I'm a bit saddened by the fact that when you read the political landscape, you know, they are not willing to make these major changes. I don't think Mr. Biya is ready to lose any inch of his power and authority. So some of the things that we are clamoring for, I am afraid, might not happen in the lifespan of this regime.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Since Barrister Balla already knows who the leaders who are propagating the no school propaganda, Barrister, what have you done so far as meeting these guys out of the country to talk to them so that they can reason with you on back to school agenda? Okay. Mr. Leo, I always wish the late Cardinal was still alive. He believed the people should choose where to be, either with the present state or with the state that they are trying to form. That's why he always said, give the people a referendum. Thomas is writing from Dubai. Good evening to you, Thomas. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and your guest, Barrister Agbor. In my own opinion, the barrister and his consortium failed the Anglophones when they had the opportunity to strike a good deal for us. What we needed from them at the time was to present just 2 points. The constitution should be reviewed. The post of president should be rotatory. But, okay. Rudolph is writing from Limber. Good evening to you, Rudolph. Good evening, Mr. Kum. And to Barrister, in our village, a leader is chosen from two backgrounds, and it is clear that when one comes from this background, the next will come from the other. It does not repeat, and the rotatory system have been successful over years. This is a common example of what Cameroon is, and if made constitutional, that when a Francophone president be, an Anglophone president should be next, and a presidential term limit put in place, I think the problems we face today will be reduced. I wonder why Anglophones must always struggle before getting anything good in this country. Even a common university was a bloodshed. I love Barrister's words. Okay, thank you. Boni is writing from Boya there. Greetings, Mr. Liu. Thank you for inviting Barrister. Please, Barrister, what is your organization doing to help these children who live in villages where schools is not going on and who are willing to go to school but don't have the means to relocate in the cities where there is school? Ngu Ngong is writing from Akale Street in Kumba. Yes.
Okay, yes. Yeah, so let me just run down. Well, it's not just meeting leaders who are calling for boycott. It's not just about me. I think it should be a consortium of others, civil society. I see CDN is doing a wonderful job, and others also. The religious leaders are trying to meet some of these leaders. You know, you cannot be on first name terms with all the leaders. There are certain that you talk to who will respect you, and others who will not want to talk to you. Yes, Cardinal Tumi was talking about a referendum. I believe also that we need one, but the problem also is real politics. You know, don't forget it might also open a floodgate. You know, that others might also ask him. Consortium failed. Well, how did we fail? We were arrested. You know, we had not even achieve what we were planning to do, and then the guys in charge of lawlessness and disorderliness arrested us and kept us in Nkongho. So there was not much we could do. Yes, I agree with you. Rotatory system, presidential limit is just what is the rule in a civilized or in a sane society. I don't want somebody to give me examples of places like the UK that there's no term, but generally I think we need we need a term limit and a rotational presidency. What is Chada doing to help kids to go to school? My brother, you know, from is there Alaska Street in Kumba? I went to high school in Kumba. That's a town that I like a lot. We have limited means, so there's not much that we can do. We support a few. We provide educational kits to some of them to go to school. We can also scout for fundings, you know, with some other friends in the diaspora. And I think that if we try to link with the Kumba Union in the U.S., especially Atlanta, Scott Nyambi, who is the president, who's a very dynamic guy, I think something can be done. So I would like to probably follow up with him after these discussions. If you can provide a contact, then I could link him to Scott and the K-Town group in the U.S. that can be of help to them. Okay.
Now the Anglophone leadership today, are you satisfied with their representation? I'm talking about the senators, the MPs, and the political representatives. I know you say you would not want to demonize anybody, but do you think the Anglophones are aptly represented up there in Yaoundé?
No, I don't think we are aptly represented. I don't think they are there for us. I don't think they speak for us. I don't think they defend our interests. And I don't think they have our interests at heart. A lot of them privately, you have conversations with them, you'll be stunned by the things they say, but they are good at wanting you to be the one to say. So your own role is to spoil your face so that they can benefit. You understand? That's why none of them who have ever been appointed have ever appreciated the efforts that others have made for them, the sacrifices that they have made for them. And unfortunately, we have leaders also who, if you want to bring, let me give you an example, Mr. Leo. There are ministers in this country, Anglophone ministers, that if you come out with a project that, okay, we can source for fund to tar a road to lead to your village, and the idea is coming from somebody who doesn't belong to their party, in as much as they need that road, they will fight against the idea. Okay? So that is how, because everybody is paying loyalty to the prince. You know, they have reduced them to some Man Fridays. You know, everybody wants to be there. So everybody, they have been bullied, and they're in a position where they have lost whatever voice they have, because the way they have been pitching them in power against those who are not in power, everybody thinks that I have to please the prince to be there. So they cannot speak on our behalf. They don't represent us. And I think they are appointed because they know that they cannot really speak for us.
Yeah, but they won elections.
Well, you see, I don't want us to get into they won elections kind of thing, okay? Because what kind of elections did they win? And if you win elections, you have the mandate, then you have to speak on behalf of your people. You don't have to be scared. You have to voice grievances. You have to be able to go to Yaoundé. The people have sent you to Yaoundé to be their voice. But unfortunately, not to talk of the worst are the ministers. They are just there for themselves. We need to have people who are in Yaoundé to speak for us. We need to have ministers who are there, who will talk on behalf of us, who will defend our interests, who also will be honest to tell the president that there is an Anglophone issue, that they have a crisis, that don't mind these vuvuzelas who are trying to give you the impression that nothing is happening. Don't mind these Man Fridays who are telling you that it's just a pocket of resistance. Tell him that, Mr. President, things are serious. My people are not happy with what is happening. You need to find a solution. I believe that the president will respect you the more if you have the guts to be able to tell him that.
Do we have a bigger fight between the existing political class in the Southwest and Northwest region against the upcoming?
Oh, for sure.
The emergence of
no,
a new
for sure,
class.
for sure.
Is that where the bigger fight is now?
It's a bigger fight because they believe, those who want the status quo to be maintained, they believe that they are the chosen ones. So they look at as others as they don't belong. So it's like a club. You know, membership is limited to those who Mr. B has appointed, or to those who have won an election. And if you don't belong to that class, they are not even happy. They're not even happy when you are invited. I'll give you an example. For example, I have never been invited in any Southwest elite meeting. They've never invited me. I think they're not comfortable with me, my presence. I've known ministers in this country who forward as receive messages when people attack me. I mean, I don't know how ministers can reduce themselves, because I'm an ordinary citizen and I consider them to be like the people who are running this country. But how can you reduce yourself to that level where you're so they are scared, because they know that they are leaders who have legitimacy in the eyes of the people, you know, and some of those leaders are in jail, and some of them have an interest that those people should not leave jail. Because in a real dispensation, if we had a genuine dialogue, if we had a transition, we have a constitutional amendment, and they want to form a government of national unity, very few of them will be in that government of national unity, because some of them are responsible for the problems that we are facing. Some of them have failed in their duty to be able to represent us. So yes, they want to be there. They always want to ensure. And this issue we are talking about, the need for an Anglophone president, it might benefit some of them. Some of them will like it, but I will bet you none of them can muster the courage to raise their voices. They would in their milieu, they will be talking at, but what is wrong with that Agbor Balla? Why is he arrogant? Why is he this? Why is it? But they like it just because of the mindset. They have been put in that mindset that we cannot have a president. It's only a francophone that is fit to be a president, and that is why we are changing the narrative. That's why we're saying no. You know, there is a time, while the Northerners are saying that is their time, they have had a president. And the Northerners and the Southerners are one and the same people. I don't want us to get into this thing that the North has had, the South is the time. No, they are one. They have had two presidents. One from the North, Ahijo, and another one from the South, Mr. Bia. All of them are from the former East Cameroon. So it's the time for those of the former West Cameroon or Southern Cameroon to accede to the highest office of the land.
Since you made public this notion of the need for an Anglophone to be president, it has actually been debated very well in many Francophone corridors. Have you had calls from some high-profile Anglophone elites, traditional authorities, amongst others? Have they called you?
No. One person sent me a message in my inbox that I'm silently behind you. Thank you. A few Francophones have called me, very appreciative of the idea, and they think that that's a good thing. But you know, our people, the idea did not come from them, so they will not support it. So they would have to destroy it. But this is like a moving train. You know, the only thing that is constant is change. And whether the Anglophone leadership, they like it or not, you know, we, the new breed, we would fight to ensure that this thing comes to fruition. It might not be in my lifetime, but there'll be a day in this country that someone from the former West Cameroon would accede to the throne, to the highest office in this country. I mean, it was a systemic work, like what happened in the US. It wasn't overnight for Barack to be president, not so, and we might just lay the groundwork. We might just lay the foundation for future generation to pick it up, and someday we might be in our graves, you know, but it would be a reality, with or without our so-called political leaders.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Hello, Barrister. I don't think the late Cardinal died with the All Anglophone Conference in Boya idea. Could you please preach this conference? Because I believe many Anglophones issues, including the oneness, Anglophone unity, amongst others, will be discussed so that we can solve our internal problems and then be able to confront the common Anglophone enemy. Barrister, about the UB exam question saga, what went wrong? Chefo is writing from Yaoundé. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm James, writing from Bamenda. What an insightful topic and what a powerful reaction from my able barrister. How I wish the states and the separatists give a listening ear and give into action for a common goal, which is peace. Okay, James is writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, James. Thank you very much, Mr. Liu. This is very inspiring program. A big thanks to Barrister Agbor Balla for his courage and relentless effort. He is one of the very few fine gentlemen in our country. I totally agree with him. The context of Cameroon is different. For national integrity and harmony, we need a presidential term limit, a rotatory presidency. Also, governors need to come from within the people voted. It's voted by the people and not appointed. As Agbor Balla correctly said, the Anglophone ministers and parliamentarians do not represent Anglophones. They don't speak for the people and therefore their interests. We equally need a presidential debate and a governorship debate in this country. The constitution needs to be addressed and restructured. This present, okay, Bianca is writing from Switzerland. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Betombo Peter from Limbe, please help me ask Pastor that don't he think that if he goes in for the top job in Cameroon, he can win? Okay, so many messages. Can you just?
I'll just speak a few. The Anglophone conference, yes, I don't think Tumi died with it. It has to be rebranded because times have passed. Things are changing. Unfortunately, the state of Cameroon and the non-state arms groups, for once, decided to think alike. It's like Hamas and the Israelites thinking alike. They, both of them, were against the All Anglophone Conference. So why were they scared of the Anglophone Conference? Because they don't want genuine leaders that have legitimacy to speak on our behalf. UB exam question. What went wrong? I don't know what went wrong. I think I was a target because, Mr. Leo, I've never told you, I wasn't the lecturer who signed that course, Constitutional History of Cameroon. Less than a week before the continuous assessment, my head of department called me and begged me, the barrister, I think you can teach that course. The person who was teaching that course had been transferred to Douala. So we were supposed to be writing an exam in a week's time. So I took upon the course, I taught it once, twice, then I gave that CA exam. To be honest, they deserve to give me a medal for rescuing that university, because it would have been embarrassing if they did not write the course. And it was a question that I did not say. I said the crisis was started by lawyers and teachers. I said the veracity of this statement. So it wasn't like, because I read on social media that I wasn't, okay, but I think they were looking for a means to take me out of it. So I left. Constitutional amendment, yes, James, I agree with you. But Betombo from Limbe, it's not about me running for the highest office. I think it's about us having an Anglophone. And I want us not to focus on the individual, because I know that there's a lot of, in this country, there's more strong persons than strong institutions. We need a combination of the strong person and the strong institution. But for the time being, let's focus on the mission to have an Anglophone. And when we get to that bridge, we might all sit and decide who is the Anglophone. It could be a female, it could be a male who is best suited to represent us as the candidate for presidency.
Okay. Now, you say the elites, elites, you have never been invited for the Southwest elite meetings? Is it?
Yeah, no.
Do you not consider yourself an elite from the Southwest?
I don't know the definition of elite. I'm sure the definition of elite is somebody who has been appointed in the post of authority by the president. But what I'm saying is that a lot of them are not comfortable having people like us around. And I understand, and I try to just respect their space also, you understand? Because you can tell when you're around them, you understand? They don't feel comfortable. And the way the politics, the way the thing is done, is an exclusive.
Is it not surprising for you to say they don't feel comfortable with you around, when many persons tag you as having engaged into a deal with government for your liberty?
Yeah, because it's easier.
Were you paid?
It's easier said than, you know, things are easier said. Leo, I will tell you the things that I've said. If I was paid, I would have been killed. The things that I've said against this government since I left jail, and there are people who are sentimental, and I just challenge them. Just be objective. Just go to Google, put my name, and see the things that I have said. See the documents. There was a time when I went to Mauritania for the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, and I made a statement when I was addressing the civil society that there's a need for a regime change in Cameroon. Very few people, very few Cameroonians have the guts to be able to say those things. And I flew back into this country, okay? I've said things. And as we speak, for those who don't know, The vehicle that I was arrested in on the 17th of January 2017 is at the Boya police station as we speak. Never been given that vehicle, in spite of the fact that the Procurator General wrote to that they should give me. The Delegate General of National Security refused. The car is still there. The car is rotten. They have still not handed me. There is supposed to be follow-up committee of the major dialogue going on. I was not invited. Okay? So I don't understand. I was dismissed from the university, assuming that that was my only source of income. Okay? So what am I benefiting? So people's mindset, and I'm not blaming some of them. I think the leaders and their surrogates also, you understand, because they are not very comfortable having people who don't agree with them. They are not comfortable having people also who in our society they are held in high esteem. So it must only be them. The only crocodile in the river should be them. And when they realize that there are other persons who people respect and people like that, so they will make all kinds of stories, you know. I was given a ministerial position when I was in jail. I'd given like 3 ministerial positions when I was in jail. I was supposed to replace Agbor. There was a time that they had given me the position of prime minister. So only the positions that they have given me, if I took all of them, I'll be dead by now, because there will be so many. You understand? But it's coming just from us. It's coming from our people. And you don't forget. You see, the impression that people have is that everybody who is an activist or who criticize the government is somebody who doesn't have food on his table. Ask those who know me, okay? Where my office is a 28 apartments, okay? In 2014, with Ben Muna and Co., about 6 apartments was completed. Till today, we've not completed that building. We used to have meetings in the consortium in that office. So it's not about hunger. There are people who have risen above that mindset of hunger. And the belief that, to me, it's a legacy for posterity. I grew up going to Bate Bisong's house to wash his plate, to hear him speak. I used to worship people like Fela. I went to his shrine in 1995. I read protest literature. I follow protest music. To me, it's a legacy for posterity. It's not about having money. It's not about having an appointment. But to most of them, the belief in the appointment, and if they give them the appointment, they will take. Most of them who are criticizing people, well, if you give them, they will take it. So they should also show respect. Whilst we respect them, they should equally show respect to us.
Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to your panelist, Barrister Felix. Courage to you guys in the studio. May God Almighty give you the strength to keep on educating and fighting for the masses. For you guys are the voice of the voiceless. It's Elvis Brown writing from Shell, New Bell in Douala. Good evening, Mr. Liu and Barrister Felix Agbor. I want to appreciate his analysis of the problems plaguing the Anglophones, but I have these questions to him to clarify my doubts. The question is, since you believe in federation and the government believes in unity decentralization with special status apparatus, don't you think your ideology is utopic as per the government's direction on how to solve the problem? And if not, what are the criteria you are guiding the government to solve this cacophony we are into today? Molombe Hans is writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Now to the barrister, one member of government, a francophone, in reacting to your idea of an anglophone being a president of Cameroon, said that all his children have learned English and are speaking English, so he don't know if one of them can be president. Barrister, what's your take? Greetings to all the wonderful members of the fan club. I'm sure that question was asked already and you answered it. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I wish to say a big thanks to Barrister Agbor Felix for his great insight. I wish the government of Cameroon and the Amber leaders give a listening ear to your neutral advice. Okay. Nkongho Ayuk is writing from Bamenda. Greetings to all. It's James here in Douala. Please, Mr. Liu, ask the barrister what's he doing with the attitude of Moja in Boya. I've had more than 100 messages asking for that question too.
Okay, first thing, that I believe in federalism and it's utopic. It's not utopic. You know, when we started, I remember Chiruma and Co. They talked about that federalism was a taboo discussion on TV. But today we are talking about it. So it also shows progress. It's just to be consistent. The thing is that we might have people law others in a false sense of hope, as if you would have, it's a quick fix. Okay, it will not be a quick fix. When you're dealing with a regime that has been in power for this long and is not willing to listen. So it's a continuous process, engaging them, discussing with them, convincing them, showing to them that it's also for their interests that we should talk about the form of a state. So that's what we're doing. The issue of Moja Moja, you know, I've read a lot of things about Moja Moja, but some people have said things. We were one of the first organizations that we issued a statement against what Moja Moja is doing. And we've issued 2 statements against Moja Moja. There was a time when Moja Moja came to Boya Mountain Club to look for me. I wasn't in the club that day. People said he came threatening me, and I called him after. I said, Moja, I heard you came to the club. He said, yes, but barrister, why are you right? I said, no, it's what you are doing. I don't have any problem with you, it's what you are doing. There was a letter that my office has drafted to the State Council like 2 weeks ago. But at times also, we train lawyers the other time on strategic litigation, okay? You have to think strategically. It's not just necessarily filing the action. What do you do afterwards? How do you galvanize others to see how you can get something meaningful from out of what you're doing? So I'm supportive of Tamfu and Co. who have engaged. But what Moja Moja is doing, it's clearly a violation of the rights of the persons who is arrested, because he doesn't have the capacity, the competency to judge them and find them guilty. The cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment that Moja is meting on these innocent civilians, because they are innocent until proven guilty, it is unacceptable. And we have written severally in our recommendations, calling on the Minister of Armed Forces, calling on the state to ensure that they put an end to the attitude of Moja Moja. I think every Cameroonian has to be concerned. And some of our statements, we shared it with the diplomatic and the international community. And these are things that when this international human rights organization pick against the state and accuse the state of violation of human rights, the state starts saying that there are people who don't like the country. But how can somebody be doing such a thing with impunity? He does the video and nobody has taken any action against him. It's very unfortunate.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please ask the barrister if this coming together and rallying under a political party will mean any of the already existing parties or a complete newly created party, because all the parties we have now got a vote of non-confidence. Derek is writing from Sweden. Barrister will answer you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I wish to say big thanks to Barrister Agbor, Felix, and Nkongho for what he's saying this evening. This one says, an Anglophone being the president of Cameroon shouldn't be something of the future. It should be after the reign of President Paul Biya. Dinze is writing from Yaoundé. Mr. Leo, panelists, good evening to you. No peace is the outcome of injustice. As of this, what is the way forward? Would we continue like this, and for how long? How long for it to be a quick fix? There must be a leader out of this. Ngala Divine is also writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I enjoy your program daily. Why is the presidential term in Cameroon still linked up from those of the Fumban Constitutional Conference 1961, and perhaps even hardened more than that? I thank goodness for no, it's Barrister Agbor Balla's courage. It's Ayuk Kilian writing from Manfi Bisongabang, to be precise. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's a nice program. Thomas is writing from Dibanda. Yes, Barrister?
Yes, just like what Derek said for Sweden, is it old parties or new parties? Derek, I don't want us to go to this level of we've given them a vote of no confidence. It's also not good because we want to build. I think the people will decide. They can be a merging of parties, you understand? All the parties can come together and have a new name, okay? And then they would have a candidate to run over. So that would be my own suggestion. Yes, I'm just trying not to raise our expectations and then we cannot meet up with that. That's why I said it might not be in my lifetime to have an Anglophone president. But I believe, personally, if you ask me, I would say the next president of this country after Mr. Biya should be an Anglophone. It's not something that we have to postpone. Yes, we need peace, we need justice also. The way forward both parties, if they put the people first, they should be able to work for the interest. Yes, Mr. Ngala, I agree with you. Ayo Kilan, thanks a lot. My mom is from Bisanga Bank, so at least I know where you're coming from, and I thank you for the support, and I thank everybody also who has been supporting us and following your program and writing, and even those who criticize us also. I think they make us better person.
Okay.
You know.
Who will you choose as an Anglophone to stand for president? Stephen Mwambo is writing from Boya.
Yeah, Stephen, why are you asking me a question that you know I don't know the answer? You saw me the other day in Boya. You didn't ask me this question. You waited for me to come. I would not choose a particular person because we need to ensure that it's free and fair, competent person, because I don't know everybody and I don't know those who are interested. So let us not be bothered about the person. Let us worry about this ideology of how do we get an Anglophone to be the next president. Okay, when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. If we start looking at the person, putting a name on the person, we already start being divided. So Mr. Mwambo, let us work on the idea and forget about the person. It could be a man, it could be a woman, it could be somebody who is in the CPDM, it could be somebody in the SF, it could be somebody in civil society, it could be somebody in PAP, it could be somebody in any of the other parties, you understand, in this country.
Okay. Again, dear Sylvester from Yaoundé says, good evening, Mr. Liu and partner. Our country needs another Moses to save us from all these problems. What can our barristers say about our parliamentarians? Okay. Good evening, sir. Nice program. I'm called Atut Franklin. Good evening to you, Atut. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I wish to appreciate the presence of Barrister Agbor on the air today and your efforts in seeing this program surviving the storms of time. Please, can Barrister tell us something on some dissenting voices dissociating the Southwest region from the ongoing Anglophone crisis? Thanks. Metro Sama Collins writing from Kumba. Joy from Boya says that, good evening, Mr. Liu. It is time we tell ourselves the truth. The current crisis needs emergency response to take the weapons from the Amber Boys. Addressing the root causes of the crisis is not going to yield anything now, at least at the level of the Amber Boys. They are out of control for whosoever. Okay. Difficult to even read.
Yeah, Leo, Mr. Agenya talked about, do we need a Moses? All of us could be the Moses, eh? You, everybody. I think the days of Moses in the burning bush, where you wait for that divine leader has passed. All of us could be divine leaders, so all of us should individually and collectively work. Our MPs, I'm not very impressed about them. I think that they can still do a lot. We just have to engage them. We have to encourage them. We have to work with them to see how they can improve. Mr. Atut or Sama Collins. I don't really see. I know that I'm in some groupings where some Southwesterners claim that it's a Northwest crisis, but it's not a reflection of who we are as a people. And I would say we are proud of who we are. Okay, the Southwesterners are behind. They're out to fight against marginalization, oppression, and suppression. And I don't think that we can reduce it to a Northwest thing. There are lots of people, especially regime apologists, who always justify that it's a Northwest thing. It is an Anglophone thing. It is a thing that, and I wish that all of those who are trying to preach this kind of hatred, this kind of diatribe and xenophobia, should understand the fact that when you are discriminated as an Anglophone. You are not discriminated as a Southwesterner or a Northwesterner. And we need to rise above this, because if we have to survive as a people, unity, togetherness, our strength is in our numbers, it's in our unity. I know there will always be people who would disagree. I've spoken to a couple of people who support the struggle. They say we support you, but we don't support two-state federation, and I understand them and I respect them, but I don't think that we should say it's just a Northwest thing. You know, all of us are involved in it in one way or the other. Yes, Joy. Joy. I understand that we need an emergency response, but it would not be one size fit all. I think we need a holistic method of addressing it while looking at the root causes also, because you need to know where you're coming from to know where you're going to. So we need to be looking at the root causes at the same time looking at, so it's immediate, short and long-term plans. Okay, so yes, we need the guys who have guns to put down their arms. We also need government to tone down its rhetorics to try to win the minds and hearts of the people. And then to, for example, if you release Ayuk Tabe and Co., these are confident building measures. Then now you can at least ask for them, okay, whilst we're releasing them, what are you giving in return? In return, you uplift, you call for kids to be able to go back to school. Just say it, even if it's not respected, it's a different thing. So I think both parties need to understand that they have to make concessions.
Okay, concessions have to be made, but many persons also, hundreds of persons have written in line with what I'm going to read here. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to our President Balla. He once said there will come a time the government of Cameroon will want to talk about federation and the people will reject it. During the survey done by the AAC, by the Cardinal, it shows that that we have rejected federation and support separation. Why has our President Balla not changed his stance in support of his people? Elvis is writing from Leicester.
Well, Mr. Elvis, thanks a lot. I expected somebody to talk about what I said, that because I'd seen the momentum and that when you push a people to the wall, you know, it's happening in other countries in the world, whatever you give them, after they have been fighting, they would refuse it. But if you give them on time, they would accept it. So that's why I said that the time would come when the people will reject federation. But I did not say that people should not be realistic also. I didn't say that people should go through a bloodbath, because I don't think it's worth the trouble. You know, we can still get our independent state someday. But this can also be done through a negotiation. This can also be done through us agreeing that, you know, we can have a federation today, like I said, a 10-state, after 20 or 30 years, a 2-state, after that, a referendum. Because those who understand the politics of the world, those who understand geopolitics and the whole nation state and nation building, these things are not just as easy as we say. If it was easy, I think we would have had a state. You know, so my thing is that don't lure people into a false sense of hope. Don't give the impression that there is something you will do overnight. That if you look at the whole external self-determination in the continent, Biafra fought for 3 years. The Organization of African Unity was not in support of it. If you look at the trend, it's against separation. It's not for separation. So how can we look at the trend in the world and see how we can get something out from it? Because my fear, my worry is that I don't want us to come out empty-handed. I don't want us to come out as losers. You know, so that's why I'm saying that in spite of the fact that government believes that they can win through the might, my prayer is that try to address some of the issues so that let it be a win-win situation. Make some concessions. Both parties should give in something so that we can at least live happily whilst we strive for the paradise terrestres on earth.
Okay, now we are almost out of time. Certainly you have a word to the guys that are watching, but many persons have still written about the SDF stuff. I'm sure they did not follow what you said about what went well and wrong between you and the SDF. Can you come back to it?
Well, yeah, I said, you know, I think I've spoken about the SDF in extenso. I said that both parties did not address the issue rightly, and it's not a personal thing between me and the SDF, that I hold the SDF in high esteem. Its leader in particular, Frundi, one of the few persons that I have a picture in my living room with. I have Gandhi, I have Mandela, I have Obama, I have Martin Luther, I have Frundi, and I have Ben Muna. You know, so these are people that I respect. I think that all of us will make mistakes. You know, it's the way we handle it. And that's why I'm planning that I would have to meet Frundi in the coming days as a child talking to a father that I think errors were made, but let us move beyond that. Because we are, in a way, he sees a bigger leader, but all of us are opinion leaders when it concerns this country and Anglophones in particular. And we have a vested interest in working together. For us to work together does not necessarily mean me joining the SDF. But I respect the philosophy of the SDF. I respect their power to the people and equal opportunities. So I would try to meet Frundi and have a discussion with him. To those people watching us, I want to say, well, thanks everybody for watching. I think it's been an interesting program. Mr. Leo, thanks for having me. But what I'm praying, especially for Anglophones and Francophones equally, is that let them join this movement to have an Anglophone president. If we have to build, we have to be honest with ourselves to accept also that the moment is now. The Anglophone president will not solve the entire problems in this country, but it will be a step in the right direction. It will be confidence building. It will help to build the minds and hearts. We expect to have institutional changes. We need to have a constitutional amendment. There's a need for a constitutional conference. We need a truth and reconciliation commission, you know. So these are other measures that other people with better ideas, with bright ideas, will sit down and carve something that when we come out from it, it will be a better Cameroon. It will be a Cameroon built on trust. It will be a Cameroon where the both peoples are respected. It will be a Cameroon where justice and equity will be the order of the day. It will be a Cameroon where you don't need to get into a professional school because you come from a particular region, you speak a particular language, or you know somebody. It will be a Cameroon where a kid that grows in Akwaya, that grows in Manganga, that grows in Furawa can aspire to be whoever in this country, can aspire to be a general manager of Sonara or Paraseta or any other Paraseta. It should not be a country where a kid is growing up and knowing that there are some positions in this country that they cannot hold by the end of the region that they come from. It should be a Cameroon where we respect unity and diversity, a Cameroon that speaks to its citizen, a Cameroon that everyone will be proud to say I'm a Cameroonian, a Cameroon where you'll be proud to fly the green, red, yellow, a Cameroon where you'll be proud to show your passport and to support the indomitable lions and to support the government and to build a country that you'd respect the country, but the country would also respect its citizen.
One last question. Are you a family man?
Oh yes, I am a family man. I don't know I have 2 daughters.
Okay.
Yes, I'm a family man. I have 2 girls, Lizette and Larissa, and I am very family oriented.
Okay.
If you talk to my siblings, you know, they will tell you that I'm a wonderful family person. I have nieces and nephews that I support, that I take care, that I'm in contact with them. I have friends also, because I believe in extended family. I have friends who I have supported. I have students that I have taught who are my family. I can tell you, Mr. Leo, I have 4 of my students that I taught, that I mentored, that they did an internship with me, they worked with me. 4 of them are working in the UN today. So I'm a family person because to me, they are my family. I consider them as my kids.
Okay, thank you very much, Barrister, for coming.
Mr. Leo, thanks for having me. I know you've always reminded me. I'll make an effort to be more often.
Okay. Yeah. We also want to take time to say thank you to all of you who sent the messages. There are so many of them. We could not read them out because Barrister had to also educate us on some of these things. If I had read all the messages, he would have been left with very little time to talk to you guys. Thank you all for watching, especially to the production team. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.
In need of a helping hand, Mitanyan Cooperative Credit Union is here for you. Mitanyan Cooperative Credit Union is a dynamic people-owned savings and loans cooperative